You have a very unique business model.
Yes, or very unique business.
A business. Yeah, we haven't had this business on here before.
Yeah.
And I was wondering what it's like when you meet people and tell them what Dattch does, when you meet VCs and tell them what Dattch does, what you tell mom that Dattch does. I mean, and what's the reaction like?
Always different. Kind of tends to group into different people. Always a bit like surprised. I think you'll get people that will be like, oh, okay. And they're just like processing, what do I say next? What's the appropriate thing to say here? Like, don't reveal anything. Okay. And then there's other people that are just like, cool, never met someone doing that before. That's really interesting. Some people focus on the dating part. I think I was talking to a friend's dad and he was like, what do apps do? And I was like, okay, cool. Right. Yeah, we'll go with that bit. Like, I think everyone has a different reaction. I haven't met anyone else doing it. Well, obviously since doing it now, we have some competitors that are out there. But yeah, when we started, we were the only people doing it just for women.
Okay, and that word like lesbian, you said on one of your Twitter feeds that sometimes that gets blocked by like Vodafone and all that stuff. Is that
Google has some really bad filters on LGBT terms, so we don't appear on Safe Search because it has lesbian in it. So,
which is frustrating.
Yeah, so I mean, there's some big, like I think BT filter. There's like really big things. A lot of charities are kind of lobbying the government to get that changed because it's, you know, if you're a 16-year-old and you're trying to figure out your sexuality and you're trying to like research it and you can't find content, that's not cool.
Okay, and you know, for people that don't know, I mean, this is going to come up sooner or later, but you know, there's a male gay app called Grindr that's hugely popular. 7 million people that use it in 190 countries. It's mentioned on Girls. You know, this last week, yes, I watched the show Girls, and I mean,
that's very revealing.
You know, I also watched Downton Abbey.
Okay.
You know? I just told everyone about it last night. So, but I mean, like, this is a very big business. It has huge implications. It's got a lot of implications, whereas you don't have to go to a specific physical geography to meet people. You can now do it via app, and I don't know, there's real things happening here. So I don't know, we want to hear all about your business. Yeah. So we usually ask people, can you tell us a bit about what you've done, what you're planning to do, and why do you think you can win in this space?
Okay, so what we've done, we built it. Well, like, so I guess the story of like how I started it in the first place. I used to work for a brand consultancy and was working in the marketing industry. And one of my clients was a dating business called Global Personals, and they run a really big network for dating. So it's a white label platform. That just kind of got me into the space and thought it was really interesting. And a friend of mine was using Grindr, and he was working on the dating project with me. And I just thought it was phenomenal. Like, it's the most amazing app. And at the time, it was a bit earlier on in its days where it wasn't, I mean, it was promiscuous, but not to the extent that it is now. And he was going away for weekends to Paris. And within like 15 minutes, he'd meet up with someone, and it was just for a coffee. But he could meet them for a coffee. And British people haven't always historically been the best at making new friendships in social circumstances. People are a bit reserved. And I was like, this is awesome. You can go to another place and meet someone, and that's completely socially acceptable. It's fine. It's the easiest way to meet new people. And so then ended up, I did a straight app with him for a little while. We thought that we should make Grindr for straight people, and just, we didn't know what we were doing, frankly.
It's a great idea. Grindr sounds like a lot of fun.
There's one out now, right?
There are so many. There's like 163 apps or something for straight people now, because this was quite a while back. So like Badoo is probably one of the biggest. I mean, there are tons and tons of apps for straight people. We weren't particularly like techie at the time. We were all very brandy, so we were doing our like vision and values. But it kind of just got me into the tech scene. I then started going to some meetups and I read the Lean Startup and was like, oh, this is interesting. And then was with some girlfriends in the pub. I'd realised quite a few problems of what I'd been doing, and I was with some girlfriends. We were looking at another lesbian dating site, and it all clicked and was like, oh, I need to make an app for women. And that was kind of how it all started. So I built a really bad private beta that was kind of put together really quickly, use it to test and see how our users wanted to go dating, because no one had really made an app for women. So I wanted to learn their behavior and see what the patterns were, like how did women want to use it. And then got into Wyra, built the team. We rebuilt the whole app and built it basically around how women want to go dating. We just found some really interesting patterns and trends and behaviors of things that weren't working in the private beta that we'd built, and a lot of assumptions that I think go into straight dating apps that are based around male dating behavior. And it's really small kind of interaction-based stuff that means it works really well for guys. but misses quite a few tricks for women. And
Can you give us some examples?
Yeah,
maybe?
so like I think loads of the dating industry has hinged off Grindr. They were kind of some of the first people into the market, and they set a lot of the behavior which other people have copied. So Grindr shows you the closest user to you. And for like gay guys especially, that's great because they meet up within like 4 hours or 20 minutes or half a day or whatever, but they meet up really quickly. So seeing that closest person to you is really relevant and really useful. Women rarely do that. Like they'll tend to book a date ahead. So whether it's like 2 days ahead or for the weekend or for a week's time, they're always booking it in advance. And so if I'm in like Shoreditch, like it's fine if a girl that I'm chatting to is in Clapham because we're going to go on a date in Soho. So that whole kind of distance thing just doesn't really matter in the same way. Things like profiles. So normally you have one really big picture and a really small amount of text. And the way men and women behave, like for guys, that's normally enough. If you're like, yeah, I'm attracted to you, guys will often send a message because they're like, yeah, let's just talk and see what happens. Girls have a few more like processes normally that happen before that. So they want to just see tiny bits more of information before they send that message. One profile picture isn't enough. So on our private beta, we were seeing every conversation just started with like, hey, winky face, like, hey, what's up? Like, nice eyes. Then there was really bad conversations because no one was asking anything useful, but that's because there wasn't anything useful to ask them about. So we're realizing it's just like for women, because the conversation is so important before the meetup, we had to make it easier for them to get that conversation going and start talking. So we ended up building our profiles that are all kind of like Pinterest inspired. So you have these like boards that are basically like you upload pictures of what you do at the weekend, like what kind of food you like to eat, where you hang out. It's like really small little insights, really easy to upload. It's a nice, easy thing to make, but it also means that when you're viewing someone's profile, within like 3 seconds, you get what kind of a person they are without having to read that really awkward tech stuff. So you're like, okay, I get your vibe, and I've got something to ask you about that's like a kind of hook of a conversation that's not just, you look fit, let's start talking, and it makes the conversation a lot better.